Saturday morning to you, and welcome to On the Mark. Alongside Mark Papa, I'm Gary Byron. Mark is with Financial Resources Group out of Glastonbury, Connecticut. You can find them online at www.f, as in Frank, rplan. That's frplan.com. And I'm going to give you a phone number. I mean, you can call it right now. I'll never tell you not to call it, but I don't want you to miss even 1 minute of this episode. If you can call at the end of the show, call this weekend, call Monday, just make sure you call. You can call it now, too, if need be. 860-657-8380. Again, 860-657-8380. And by the way, if you miss any of those points of contact, don't worry too much. I'll repeat it at least 2 more times before the show is over. Well, Mark, great to see you, my friend.
Oh, thank you. Good to be back.
Now, let's see here. Oh, no. We have Halloween is coming up. That's next Friday. You've got an event, though, coming up on, is it Tuesday, the 28th?
Tuesday, the 28th.
Ruth Chris Steakhouse.
Full house.
Berlin Turnpike in Newington.
I'm a fool because what I should have done, Gary, I said, if I should have had people wear their costumes. And you know
right,
what? It's not too late to do that. What I could do is I can send out a blast email and say, hey, if anyone wants to have a little fun and wear a Halloween costume, and then maybe offer a few prizes at the. You guys gave me a great idea,
now
Gary.
You're talking, my friend.
Yeah,
that should great.
That should kind of calm people down a little bit.
I think that's a great idea. I mean, it's just. Why not have a little fun with this? It's a serious topic. You do outstanding work, but you're a dad. You're a great guy. And you're fun loving as well.
Yeah,
so
I'm
why
ask
not?
anybody. I think what I'm going to also. I think I'll bring some Halloween candy to the meeting.
Oh,
for sure.
You're nailing it. You're nailing it. But the key thing here, though, is that it's already sold out, right? Or not sold out because you're not really selling tickets. It's a freebie, but you're at capacity. Are you already looking into November? Because you're onto something here.
Well, I want to see where I am, at the event. I say a week before the event. If I have more than a certain number of people, I can book the smaller room because there's one for 40 and there's one for 20. So let's say, for example, there's people who have been waitlisted that wanted to come. I could just take the next night, just book the next night and say, hey, why don't you come in? We're going to do the smaller room, 20. Now, if I need another 40 for the next night, then, yeah, we can do that as well. I would say the demand is pretty high. And again, I'm getting a lot of hits with the first mailer I did was 7,500 pieces, Gary, and I got, 103 people, which is a lot. So I said, well, why do I want to do that if my room is only 40? Let me cut it in half. So I cut it down to 4,500 for 2 events, and I picked both events. So I'd imagine this Roth blueprint and paying less in taxes during your retirement. If your goal is to pay less in taxes during where you're working or your retirement, I'm the guy to be giving a call because we have the strategies that we can help people do that. I know in the last episode I mentioned a way to pay 70% less on IRA withdrawals, depending on your income, or paying less than 2% on investment income. Remember, I talked about that.
That's
There's
right.
a way to do that.
Yeah.
Or some of the tax strategies I could do through my Glastonbury Tax Strategies LLC, which is separate from Financial Resources Group LLC, totally separate entity, but we do have some overlap there. I'm the managing member of both, so I can't say that it's not affiliated. But, we use these strategies there to help people pay a lot less in taxes during the retirement. Because I don't know if I meant, as I mentioned in the seminar, Jay, how about, you know this from your radio shows, but we're adding $1 trillion in debt every 173 days.
Right.
It's compounding.
Every 5 months.
Yeah, every 5 months it's compounding. We're at $37 trillion, and it's growing and growing and growing. And we have about an 8-year window to get that Roth blueprint done. Then I think after that, it's going to be, we're not going to be able to afford this anymore. Taxes are going to have to go up just like they did after World War II. And just like they did, it's going to get ugly. It's going to be not ugly. It's not going to be very nice for people retired.
I've got a question for you. Before I get to that, though, I just want to make sure I understand. I know you're talking about maybe add on an extra day for a smaller room of 20 or whatnot. Yeah. You also have the holiday season coming up. Between Thanksgiving and New Year's, you probably want to stay away from. But maybe the week before Thanksgiving, would you have time to do? Would you be able to do one more of these?
I could do the
dinners?
event. I could do the event, but here's the problem: is booking people to come in for the first meeting, gathering their stuff. They're busy with the holidays, then booking them to come back for the second meeting, gathering their, going through the process, and then booking them for the third meeting, which is what we call our implementation meeting. That could stretch it out over 2-3 months. And then what happens is people tend to forget all the stuff, so I have to keep reminding them. It's just a lot more work. The ultimate goal would be for somebody to come in. They would meet me. Okay, the week out, they come in for the checklist, 7 to 10 days. After the checklist, a week out, they come into the implementation, and then a week out from there. So it's typically about a 3 or 4 week process, 5 week to onboard people. But you know what? We're hitting winter.
Then you're at New Year's again.
People want to go travel. They plan all their trips. They're going to see family. So I don't want to be butting up against that. And all it does is just lengthens out the process to bring them to the solution. So I'm going to probably cut it off here and just work on people that I have already. And then existing clients, by the way. We have existing client base that I need to pay attention to, too. I can't just be working on new people, so there's only so much I can handle. But, we want to make sure we're taking good care of our existing clients, too. And because most of them have this full checklist, and the ones that don't will be getting it.
Just about every piece of that last week, didn't we?
We covered, actually, Gary, the goals meeting. We just covered the beginning. Now, I covered some facets of what the full checklist review is going to be. But then, I would like to just go down the list that I have that I go through for each client when we do it.
Oh, okay.
So let me just lead you through, Gary. So basically,
I did have I had another question. No, well, I don't want to. You mentioned once a survivor's guide. Am I getting too ahead of you? Because
no, not at all. So here's the thing.
You mentioned this, and I have to confess, I don't even know what that means.
Okay.
And if I don't, and I'm with you on every show here, and I listen intently. So I guess it's a two-part question. What is your survivor's guide? What does it entail? What does it even mean?
Okay.
All right. Can you?
All right. So let me just walk you through the process, Gary. So first thing is, we went through the goals meeting, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell people that they've done a lot of things well, right? They have a good level of assets for their age, that they have a will in place. If they did that, a trust in place, they have umbrella liability. So all the things that they've done right, Gary, I'm going to make sure we encourage you to say, hey, great job. And then what we're also going to say is, Gary, these are the things. So that list that I showed you, under your glasses there, if you take a look at the list, we're going to say these are the things that we need to kind of address. These are the things that we're going to fix. Now, these are not difficult things to fix. These are easy peasy, simple, easy fixes. Okay. And the first thing is going to be the survivor's guide. So I'm going to say the first thing we're going to talk about survivor's guide. So I want you to think about this, Gary. If it's first the survivor, is that for the people who are filling it out, or is it for the next of kin, typically?
A survivor's guide?
Yeah, the survivor's guide is basically for the next of kin. I'll help you out on that. So that means...
Oh, here we go.
Yeah, so the survivor's guide is going to be in place for people who, when you pass away...
Like updating your will and like who you're leaving.
It's going to actually show you like where your will is.
Oh, okay.
So the survivor's guide, imagine this if someone passed away and they didn't leave any notes, any instructions, where everyone has that lockbox in the closet, or that lockbox in the basement, or their safe, or wherever. Imagine what it would be like trying to settle somebody who's passed away, and you're the executor of their estate, and you don't know where anything is.
Oh, my goodness. How frustrating is that?
Yeah. And now what happens even when we do have this stuff listed? So the first thing we talk about is, where's all my stuff? Where am I going to find a copy of the will? Where am I going to find things like old marriage certificates? Where am I going to find things like life insurance policies, old health insurance policies, Social Security cards, benefits available? So we have a list of that for the clients to show them where they put that stuff. Then we'll say, next thing is going to be important contacts. Now, you're going to want to know, again, if you're settling someone's estate or you're their trustee, you're going to want to know who their financial advisor is, I'd imagine, right?
Of course, right.
So who's their estate planner? Okay, who's their lawyer, right? You're going to call the lawyer right away and say, hey, we need to get the ball rolling here and divvy up these assets or go through probate or whatever, right? So you're going to want to know that. We'll also have a real estate information. So what if, I don't know, I've been in this situation before where I've had clients say, oh, yeah, we're going to call a buddy of ours from we went to high school with, and he's going to be our agent. He's going to sell our house. You know this guy, what a great buddy he was, Gary? He's such a good buddy, he tried selling that house 30% below market value to make a quick buck because he figured, oh, they lived out of state, they wouldn't know the difference, and they just want to grab the money.
What kind of a buddy is that?
Well, not very good because he got fired. And we let his contract expire and hired someone else and got $30,000 more. So, you could put down the people you know and trust as the contacts for your kids, next to kin, to say, hey, this guy's not going to sell you up down the river. Okay? Mm-hmm. And then we'll have a whole bunch of other lists like important papers. We'll have things like personal effects. Now, personal effects is a super interesting one, Gary. There's a certain amount of value you can put on things. But what if I told you there was a story where this woman played tennis with her dad, very, very close to dad, and they were, that was their thing, played tennis.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, that's nice.
And dad brought her up, just kind of like those two sisters there. What are they called?
Venus and
Serena.
Serena, yeah.
Their dad, I mean, can imagine what, So he brought him up, and she was a very active in playing tennis tournaments. And so what she would do after her dad passed, she would bring dad's racket with her to those tennis tournaments. Now, you and I couldn't get $5 for this racket at a pawn shop, but what kind of value, Gary, is that to her?
Oh, man, sentimental.
Sentimental value, right. So what would happen, Gary? So we would want to write down that racket's going to go to that daughter, because what can happen if the second daughter came up and says, I want dad's racket? What can happen?
Well, that would cause a lot of racket.
Yeah, cause a lot of racket, exactly. So, and could those things keep our family together or tear them apart at the very time?
Oh, that would rip them apart.
It would rip them apart. So obviously, we want to take a look at those things. Another thing on the Survivor's Guide is going to be funeral and burial expenses. So what are more and more people? I don't know what you're seeing out there, Gary. More people are not just are for those who want to get buried are buying their caskets at Costco. I don't know if you know this.
I didn't even know Costco sold caskets.
Costco sells caskets. They also sell gold bars if you want to be buried with those too. But they're selling bullion, Gary. It's crazy.
What's a bullion of gold? How much is that worth?
It's 1 troy ounce. It's over $4,000 now an ounce. At least the last time I checked, it could change.
You can get a bullion at Costco?
Yeah, in fact, I think it's I don't even know if they have it in stock anymore. People are buying it like crazy. But anyway, so long story short, you can actually decide how you want your funeral to go. Do you want the Cadillac version, the expensive funeral, or do you want the thrifty funeral, right?
I want as few worms traversing through my body as possible.
Right. So then what you would be able to do is say that so there was a story where this woman was really dirt cheap and she was thrifty and super tight with a buck.
Dirt cheap.
Dirt
no
cheap.
Pun intended.
No pun intended. Yeah. And so her kids figured, well, we would just, instead of having her buried, instead of having a funeral, we would just do what? What's that other version?
Cremation?
Cremation, yeah. So they had her cremated. And about 3 weeks later, she was going through her mom's important papers. Because again, are these things that we want to tackle right away when someone passes, or do we kind of want to take a little break and kind of grieve a little bit, right? She finds her mom's stuff and says, well, her mom said, I'm a devout Catholic, and I wanted to have a Christian burial. So she felt that she went against what?
But Christians, you can now have a Catholic.
It's okay now.
It's okay to do the cremation now. Yeah.
It's okay to do cremation now, but mom wanted to be buried. And so she went against her, felt like she went against mom's wishes because she didn't have that survivor's guide in place. It was buried somewhere in her important papers, and she didn't see it in time. So she had already, so she had felt that, good about what happened or bad, do you think?
Probably felt terrible.
She felt terrible as she was bawling her eyes out in, my colleague's office. So then what we do is, Gary, once we go through those things, we have the people write down, their sentimental goods. The last thing we'll have them do is write down people to notify. Also your obituary too. So you can put things in your obituary that you may not have covered or your kids may not have known. Just the other day, it was a woman. Oh yeah, she was a one of those what do you call those Olympic swimmers? Not the swimmers, but the other one. What the
diver?
The fancy swimming. What do they call that?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, God. Anyway, so she was she was a swimmer. And so she would have said, oh, that's something I could put in, that my kids don't really know about. Right. So so long story short, you can put that in there. And then we would do is we have them. Also, the last thing is list contacts that their kids may not know. Like, I'm going back to high school or friends of ours or kids and people in college that, I don't know, how would we even know how to reach them? All right, friends, maybe clubs that we're in or, whatever that you'd want to notify. So there's a list of people to notify. But then what you do is you have that thing notarized. So this way, if there's ever any contesting, is anyone going to go against it if you had it notarized, if you want to be super thorough about things.
Wow. Okay.
So that's the first thing. That's the survivor's guide.
That is real thorough. I'm glad I asked, though.
Yeah.
I know you mentioned it, and I always got to write this down. I got to remember next week, and I always forget. But I'm glad
the good news and the bad news, it's a good thing to do. The bad news is, obviously it's the first step in what I would say many, the first step in many, 20 other sections we cover. So, it's something that's the very first thing we cover. And it's not something that anyone's going to, jump in and say, hey, I need to work with Mark because of the survivor's guide. But, is it a good thing to actually get that done for people?
It is. And before you get to the next, let me do a quick ID here. Folks, you are listening to On the Mark along with Mark Papa. I'm Gary Byron. Mark is with Financial Resources Group. He's out of Glastonbury, Connecticut. You can find them online at frplan.com, frplan.com. And phone number, 860-657-8380. And if you missed any of those points of contact, no worries, because I'll give it to you one more time, more towards the end of the show. Mark, please continue on with this summary here.
Yeah, so once we get the survivor's guide done, then the next thing we're going to talk about, and again, this meeting, if we can flow through, we can get it done in a couple hours. I've actually most recently got one done in about an hour and 45 minutes because some of the things that people had already gotten done, which I thought was great.
Yeah.
So the first thing is we don't spend a lot of time on this. This is the will or trust. So the first thing we're going to talk about is, the next thing we'll talk about is your will. And what we'll tell people is, I'll ask them, how well do I know you? Just met you. So how well do I really know you? And they'll say, probably not very well. And I'll say, so, this is a list of things in the will. This is our will review checklist that people can look at. So we'd want to kind of go through your will with a fine-tooth comb before we make any opinions on it. And again, I can't give legal advice, so we don't give legal advice. But one of the things I do say is there is one thing that we noticed that we didn't have in your will. And they'll say, oh, what was that? And I'll say, well, you didn't have, are you familiar with what a digital executor is? And they'll tell me, no, I don't really know that. So, Gary, you have a Facebook account, right?
I do.
And do you have LinkedIn? Or
I do have LinkedIn, yes.
Facebook, LinkedIn. How about Instagram?
I do not have Instagram.
All right, but you have digital assets, digital accounts.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it, though.
Yeah.
I'm not this big Twitter X guy or I'm not on all those.
No, you have people to do that for you.
Well, the station does. I'm not a real big social media guy. I barely have time for that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, the long story short is, Gary, so if something were to happen to you, would you, want people going into your Facebook? And have you ever gotten friend requests from people that have passed away?
Yes.
Hackers going into your account.
Or they're duplicate accounts. I'm not saying that they hacked into their account. I'm saying that they stole their name and likeness. And,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
they do that even when you're alive, though.
Yeah, they do that when you're alive. Now, there's some states, Gary, where it's actually illegal to go into somebody's account after they've passed away. So one of the things we say is, well, and I've seen a lot of good lawyers, by the way, they actually have a thing for digital assets. Now, we're not talking about cryptocurrency. That's whole other aspect. But digital assets, things like their Facebook account, their LinkedIn, so that you can actually go in and become what they call a digital executor. So you can go in and actually shut down that Facebook account. So I'll say, and they'll say, oh, I didn't know that you could do that.
No, that's actually a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, because, how many people are on Facebook nowadays, especially senior citizens, people who are retired?
Oh, they got all day to be on there, too.
They have all day to be on there, and I'm actually getting leads from Facebook, people looking for advice. Yeah. So that'll be the will. Then we'll talk about a trust. And remember, I mentioned that you can go to www.frplan.com, click on the estate planning tab, and if you're really curious as to whether you need a will or trust, you can take our quiz. It's a 2-minute quiz. It's super short.
Yeah, you told me about that last week, I think.
Yeah, it's super short, super sweet. And again, in that meeting, we're not about to dig into your 150-page trust, okay, or whatever it is. Most of them are 150 pages, but we're not looking to dig into the trust. What we are there to do is help you discover whether or not you need one, and if you do have one, whether you need to update that trust. Okay, do you need to change a trustee, or is a trustee no longer willing to act as on behalf? Or the next thing I'll ask is, do you have a successor trustee? So if trustee A can't do it, do you have trustee B ready, willing, and able to jump in if they can? And a lot of people say, oh, we need to talk about that, right? And then we'll go through that, and I'll say the main one would be, do you own out-of-state property? And they'll say, no, we don't have any rental property or out-of-state property. And if they do, then that might be one reason. Or I'll ask them, do you have a child that's special needs or a child that's a spendthrift? And they'll say, most people will tell me no, but they'll say yes. And there's no way in heck we want to give our kids a lump sum of XYZ dollars, knowing that we're not having some supervision.
Of course.
Right. Yeah. And then obviously if it's special needs, that's no one's fault. So that the special needs trust would then be something that they may want to consider or have implemented so that someone can take care of their health, education, maintenance for that child, because they can't do it on their own. And someone who's super trustworthy. And I know there's also third-party nonprofits that are available that the estate planning lawyers will use to make sure, like they're like a corporate trustee, that those children are taken care of if, let's say, the brother or sister in the family is either not trustworthy, has issues, or just doesn't want to do it.
All right.
Right?
Sure.
So they have that taken care of as well. Okay?
Yep.
So that would be will or trust. And then the next thing we like to talk about is the durable power of attorney. So let me break down power of attorney for you, Gary.
What's the difference between a durable power of attorney and, let's say, like a medical power of attorney? Or those are two different distinctive...
Two different things, yeah. So obviously a durable power of attorney isn't so obvious to people because you're giving someone the power to act on your behalf for your finances, okay? And it's durable because it's lasting, meaning it goes on until, as long as that person has that power of attorney until you die, right? So now there's another kind of power of attorney, Gary. Let's say, I talked about out-of-state property. Let's say someone wanted to send their real estate agent to Virginia, and it was to sell a beach home. And the agent said, no problem, I'm licensed in Virginia, send me down there. You can actually send them down to act on your behalf for that one transaction. And then that power of attorney is dead after that. So that's, power of attorney for that transactional power of attorney. Durable is for the lifetime of the person who assigned you as your power of attorney.
Okay. All
okay.
Right.
Now, when you pass away, the power of attorney becomes null and void. But the main thing we want to work on power of attorney, and I'll ask people, gee, is this for when times are great or when times are starting going downhill and things are pretty bad with you, right? You can't, you can't really take care of your own finances anymore. You're forgetful. You may have missed some bills. We see that often. Bills pile up, or people will go into their parents' home and they see that the creditors are calling, and mom and dad were always good religious bill payers. So that's the time when a power of attorney needs to come in and take over. Okay.
Okay.
So we like to talk about that because there are inherent problems with some powers of attorney. Banks, brokerage firms, the IRS. Obviously, banks and brokerage firms they've all figured out ways. Their lawyers have figured out ways to make sure it's easy to get at your money. If you're a power of attorney, I think they make it a little bit more difficult because of fraud and whatever else.
Well, I would expect there's a protocol in place so that if you're authorized, it should be easy. But to verify that you're authorized, there needs to be a protocol in place. Yeah,
exactly. So each bank and brokerage firm, they all have their various different protocols. And it goes back to, I think, the small bank in, where I can't remember what state it was, but it's going back to I think it was the mid-'90s, where people had been working with this bank for decades. And then as soon as the husband became incapacitated, they gave him all sorts of trouble.
Can you file a medical power of attorney? Can you just do that electronically?
Yeah, you can do that as well.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So we actually have your durable power of attorney, in making sure that's working correctly with your bank, your brokerage firm. And also, people don't realize that your Social Security also does not accept your perfectly legal power of attorney. So we show people ways to make sure that they have that language available so that they can act right away. And I have a whole story that goes behind that. We don't have time for it today. But now, your medical power of attorney, if that's for finances, that's for medical. The medical power of attorney, having that, I have my medical power of attorney in a digital vault. Okay, so if I pull out of your DRC and get in a car accident, get rushed to Harvard Hospital on LifeStar, they can go right in my pocket and they can download my Do Not Resuscitate. They can download my medical power of attorney. So if I can't think for myself or someone needs to act on my behalf, that person can act on my behalf. No problem. So, and we talk about the consequences of not having that done in the meeting. So I can pick up that on the next show.
All right. Speaking of which, I mean, we talk about this is a continuation from last week. I think next is like a 3-part series. Next week, I'd like to pick up.
I can keep on going with this.
This is really good stuff.
This separates. This is stuff people need to get done.
Well, particularly let's start next time with like quality of life directives, or how about even you could spend a lot of time on identity theft plan. I mean, they're right there. That's really good stuff.
I was going to what I can do is actually dig up the average cost of what it takes to fix that stuff, and making sure you actually have that in your home insurance as well.
You're so invaluable. Mark, this is such needed information. Folks, if you like more information on the Financial Resources Group, Mark's company, they're out of Glastonbury, Connecticut. You can check them out there. You can go online, too, frplan.com, www.f as in Frank, frplan.com. And here's the phone number. Call it right now, 860-657-8380. One more time, I'll slow it down. You want to schedule a no-obligation consultation with Mark. 860-657-8380. And try to get one of those seminars over at Ruth Chris Steakhouse. You're going to learn something incredible. That's coming up. For Mark Papa, I'm Gary Byron. Thank you so much for listening to On the Mark. Until next weekend, have a good one, everybody. So long.